It's amazing. I just thought I'll make a table talk 2 video, and it's 1:11 in the afternoon. This is simplicity itself. This is the table that was covered in white paint that you've probably seen in the previous video and one not so long back. This is so easy. All I've done is to renew. They were nailed in legs, and at least one of them was sort of working loose, and I've sort of squared things up, replaced them with substantial screws, moved one of this board. There was a slight gap down the middle. There still is slightly, but that can be filled in at a later date. I'm not really worried about the cosmetics of this, it's just the structure. And that is what I wanted to show you. So I'm just going to flip it over the other way. So now we can have a look at the actual structure. Now, this seems to be reverse engineered. So you have this piece of wood here, and then the two legs, and they were nailed, but they're now screwed. Now, once again, this end and the other end have to be identical in size if you wish to have something square or rectangular. But it's the actual joints. You could do this easily with a saw. It's like an L shape, so it adds to the squareness. It's screwed in with smaller screws into this wood here, and then 2 into this leg and 2 into this leg here. So it's a fairly solid structure. And old wood, old timber is good, because a lot of the stuff you get now, one, is overpriced and expensive, this whole thing about scarcity, but it's forced grown, so it wasn't allowed to grow naturally. But the older the wood is, as long as it's still in good condition, no sort of woodworm, but even that can be sorted out as long as it's not too far gone. Always worth sanding down to have a look to see if there are any problems before you really start going into building something with second-hand wood, and also checking for straightness as much as possible. So no measuring on my part to be done, just renewing screws and then sanding. We're trying to bring out this beautiful wood grain, and it will need some cosmetic work done on it as and when we have the resources and in some ways the manpower. The sanding is actually quite a slow process, but you don't want to be sanding with too coarse a sandpaper, because it will scratch it and then you'll have to sand it again. So it's a functional table, so it's simplicity itself. You've got those 2 end bits, you've got the recessed bits on your 2 long sections. Again, they need to be the same size. You have this 1 cross brace, and that is, I've left that's nailed. The only modification I've made, I've put 2 screws on the top to, as much as anything else, it's to help stop the wood warping, because that's another problem. You can see where this has probably got damp at some time. This is sort of the underside carcass, as it were. But that is basically it. So we'll just flip it over again. So there are the 2 screws just across the middle there, and on this side, actually I've screwed this side. It was just nailed on. The other side I didn't have to take off. I've left the nails in, sunk them in a bit deeper, so everything is countersunk, and just reinforced it with screws on that side. So that is a nice solid table, a nice easy project. Like I said before, all you need to do is get your measurements accurate, get your 4 legs the same length, get your 2 sides the same length, and your 2 end boards the same length, and obviously the top as well, which I would say is probably recycled skirting board. We're looking, what, maybe about 9 inches across. It's probably about 3 foot long. It's a sort of little community table which we can have outdoors or indoors, but I shall carry on doing a bit more work and show you the update once it is fully finished. Depending, of course, well, I can show you structurally finished, which it is now. It just requires a bit of sanding, which is something that's quite therapeutic to do, not too strenuous, and just let your mind wander off, do a sort of meditation or something while you're sanding, and or just feel the gratitude and admire the wood. There is something about sanding wood where there is still an energy, and I feel it is so disrespectful to not give the tree in its new transmuted form as timber and put it to new use. I mean, this potentially could last 200-300 years as long as it's looked after. And I mean, look at how the world is today. It's all about fashion, change for the sake of fashion, because it's run on a business model. But as long as the thing's functional and you can look after and repair these things, bring them back to life, as it were. So that's a little Table Talk 2 video for you today. I know I said I'd do one on how to actually cut wood. That one I will come on to later. I may need a cameraman or a camerawoman so I can actually then demonstrate, which I feel will be better rather than just talking about it as a concept. But yeah, very little carpentry skills would be needed to actually make this. So maybe just play the video back again, have a look at the construction, maybe even make yourself a little drawing and then work from the drawing. Relatively few tools are needed for this. Obviously a saw, and then you need a screwdriver, a drill ideally, or a way of making pilot holes. And you could actually, with wood screws, they're sort of self-tapping, as it were, but it would be quite hard work. And the other thing, of course, is pick screws that are not going to be longer than what you're going through. You don't want the ends of the screws coming out the other side of the wood. And you also want to get them countersunk. These are going to have to be, I can feel it, these are just slightly too high. I may need to take those out and then sink them in a little bit deeper. But there we go. Coffee table or community meal table, or just for sitting around and relaxing and enjoying this beautiful, beautiful weather. And wow, was it windy overnight. More about that in another video. And like I said, we'll show you what people would say are mistakes, but there are no mistakes. It's all learning. It's learning as you go. If anything, it's like we're back in the 19th century in a way. Right, I'm going to cut this short because I could just keep talking, because there's a lot more I could be saying here. So I'm going to wish you all a beautiful, beautiful day. As you can see here, it is beautiful blue skies. There is our skyscrapers, which, like the green screen, it's all provided by nature. But it does make a bit of a wind tunnel through here at times. But it's nothing we can't work around and work with.